So a friend of mine posted on Facebook, if you had 20 minutes on a stage with no script, could you talk about something for 20 minutes and what would you talk about? So I just think about that. Yeah, I could do 20 minutes. So let's see. If I could do 20 minutes, it takes me about 20 minutes to get back to my shop, maybe more. So let's see if I can talk for 20 minutes about some shit. How about 20 minutes of talking about the journey of rewiring your brain. You can rewire your brain, and I learned this in my late 20s, and I don't know if that's what you could actually call it. I'm an electrician, so when I think of things, I can use the analogy of electrical because I have a very strong understanding of how that type of stuff works, and I don't know, it just to me it's relative. So when I was in my 20s, I was a freaking moron. I was really not self-obsessed or anything like that, but just confused. I didn't get what this journey of life was. I didn't understand it. I was kind of all about instant gratification, always chasing that dopamine hit, which I guess you could say I'm still doing the same thing today, just in a more constructive fashion. I was, I wasn't very good at managing my money. I didn't have any self-discipline. We even lived like kind of filthy for a while, It was like not real proud of that time of my life. I had done a lot of drugs and shit, and just really was just lost, in life. And I remember a couple of pivotal moments that really changed my trajectory and changed my kind of my view on life, my view on this journey, and my place in this journey. And one of those things was my dad came to my house before my dad died. And I remember looking at the house and just being just fucking completely ashamed and just disappointed that I lived in just such a fucking... I think we weren't very clean, it was just gross, And I look back on it, I'm like, man, that was fucking nasty. I'd beat the shit out of myself if I ever saw myself living in some shit like that now. But there was a time when I didn't share that appreciation for cleanliness, and so that was one thing. Then another one of the things was we end up over at married to my ex-wife, and we end up over at her cousin's house, and her cousin is doing pretty good for himself, and he's got a really, really freaking nice house. I remember standing in this kid's house. He's younger than me, and I'm this loser that's barely able to afford the rent at my house, and this kid's like on his third house. It's like a $500,000 house or some shit when he's like 24, 25 years old. And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm like, dude, how did you do this? And his response back to me was, you just gotta want it bad enough. And in the moment, I didn't understand what the hell that meant. What does that mean? You just gotta want it bad enough. Like I wanted stuff real bad, but never anything has manifested into this. And I was missing the point severely. It took me some time to figure that out, but it was in those couple of interactions that it kind of got me to start shifting my mindset from thinking of this short-term tunnel vision perspective of life into something more drawn out, Then I kind of had a conversation with myself. I had a conversation with the older me, and I was not proud of the trajectory I was on, and I was like, wow, I'm really letting myself down here. And I thought that, if I keep going the way I'm going, when I turn 40, man, I'm gonna be really freaking disappointed in myself. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to be mad at me any more than I was already mad at me, because I've been really mad at me for a long time. Up until recently, I'm not really that mad at me anymore. I'm mad at the younger me, stupid fuck. But, as far as the me now, I'm pretty proud of who I've become. And so I even had a conversation with my ex-wife about it. I was like, look, I'm tired of freaking living like this, and we're changing. I'm changing. Somebody's changing, or, the door, either, it's either we're changing or the door's right there. I'll see you later, because I'm not living like this anymore. I'm done. And of course she said, yeah, let's do it, whatever. That lasted a short period of time, and she wasn't about that life, about change and discipline and stuff like that. And so it's taken me a lot of years to get myself pointed in the right direction, you know. And then of course I discovered podcasts, and from there I've completely transformed myself into who I am today. But I remember back thinking, like, you get stuck in these freaking patterns and these patterns of self-destruction, you know. And for me anyway, I was like scared of success. I didn't have any really any self-worth. I didn't think that I couldn't picture myself as being a successful person, though I wanted to be successful. I just didn't know what that looked like. You know, I didn't know what the weight of that, you know, would actually even end up bringing. And one of those things is like when you're in that rut and you recognize the patterns, because you have to recognize the patterns. If you don't recognize the patterns, you're in a lot of freaking trouble, because ultimately, let's say something happens to you, and then if you're an addict, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go after your drug of choice, whatever that may be, and then you know, maybe you miss some work, or maybe your performance at work isn't good, or maybe you're trying to focus on this problem and you start shutting out people close to you, and like I don't know, man, I found myself in this revolving door of lift myself up, drop myself down, and not, you know, and then just stay defeated for a minute, and then lift myself up, and then you fall. But you know what? It took me a long time to figure out. Life is always trying to knock you down. Like, if you think you're going to go through life without getting knocked down, you're in trouble, because life is always trying to knock you down. And when you recognize that pattern, that life is always trying to knock you on your ass, you can start to kind of like start to dodge the shots a little bit, and kind of I don't know, man, recognize what's happening, you know. And for a long time it feels like you're going 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And in reality, you're really kind of going 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And you're really making this incremental progress along the way, very little bits at a time, you know. And for me, the best thing that could have happened to me was my dad passing away. When my dad passed away, that was kind of like the last thing for me that I needed to have happen in my life for me to turn my shit around. And so I started really focusing hard on being a good person and not being a fucking idiot, you know, like I was. And then, you know, of course, after he passed away, I ended up moving to Louisiana. And then when I got to Louisiana, the best part of that was I get to reinvent myself. Nobody knows me here. I get to show up as whoever the fuck I want to be. I can either be the old Cameron, who is just very selfish and just didn't, you know, very impulsive and just not very disciplined. And certainly, I mean, I worked hard at work, but I certainly didn't work hard on me. And when I got there, it was like, all right, cool. No more money problems. No more fucking off the money. No more, you know, obviously it's like gotta stay focused on making sure I save money and making sure I'm not blowing it on stupid ass shit, and trying to really change my spending habits. And I lived in Louisiana for a year, and you know, another thing that I'd noticed was my relationship habits were fucked, you know. I was scared of strong women because I felt like they would, you know, I could probably put up a front for a little while that they wouldn't be able to see through, and I could trick them for a bit thinking that I was like this upstanding good man that was, you know, focused on things, you know what I mean? Like, but I wasn't really, at that time, it wasn't me, you know. So you know, the next thing I got to work on was relationships, and not falling into the same stupid habits and patterns that I was running into with relationships where I'm from, you know. And so I started working on that a bit, you know, and then I moved to Texas. I was in Louisiana for like 9 months, and then I moved to Texas, and I had a whole new chance to kind of keep building on that reinventing process. And all the while, I'm like rewiring my brain. Every time you change a broken habit that you have, or a broken pattern, and you create a new, better pattern, or something that you know, you recognize that you're doing this thing wrong, and then you alter your trajectory by fixing it, you know what I mean? And when you do that, you technically, I think what you're doing is you're rewiring your brain. and of course I'm not a freaking scientist or anything like that, or somebody's an expert in it, but I can tell you what I went through. Is like I don't have really any of those old habits anymore, any of those old things that I thought that were me. I thought those things, that they were me, they were not changeable. You know, some people have this view that this who I am is static, and no, it's not. It's not static. It's very dynamic. It can be very dynamic, but you have to allow it to be, you know. And it's one of those things that it takes a lot of work, man. It takes a lot of freaking work. And so by the time I get to Texas, I'm a completely different person than I was the year previously. After, you know, it's like been a year or whatever. No, it would have been a year and a half since my dad died. And I moved to Texas. And then I got here and it was like, all right, start from scratch. No more lying, cheating, stealing, nothing. No, there's none of that. There's no unethical behavior. Everything is going to be, even if I have to fucking stay at the bottom, I don't care. I would rather be at the bottom with my ethics and my morals and be a good person and keep myself down than try to succeed in life off of playing or fooling somebody else, tricking somebody else, cheating, conning somebody else. Like I feel like at the end of the day, when I die, if I have any success in my life and that success wasn't organic and wasn't pure, and I'm gonna have a hard time looking at myself in the mirror when I pass away. You know what I mean? So it's like I kind of shifted my mindset to that. And you know, through living in Texas, I've surrounded myself by better people. I haven't been surrounded by criminals and fucking drug addicts and shit. I've been slowly creating these circles of people who are good people, and then entrepreneurs, and then people who work really hard, and people who are successful, and not just financially, but successful in a lot of different facets of life. And so now, fast forward to I'm 40 years old. I'm still rewiring my brain. You know, a couple years ago, I embarked on this journey of doing hard challenges because I found myself pushing myself to do something that I thought was crazy and I thought was hard, and that was walking on a trail carrying a 25-pound weight for like 3 miles. And at the time, to me, that was freaking nuts. Nobody I know is doing that. And so for me, it was like, all right, you're going to go do this thing that nobody else is doing. It's really hard, and that's probably why nobody else is doing it. And we're going to see what's on the other side of that. I don't know what's on the other side of that, but I have this feeling like that I need to go do this thing, right? So I go out and I accomplish this task of going like 3 miles carrying a 45-pound weight. When I get done, my arms, my hands, my shoulders, my traps, my back, my legs, my fucking everything hurts. Literally every muscle in my body is destroyed. And on that, I'm like, well, I got 3 miles done, and I'm in the most pain I've like really been in a long time. Let's push the envelope. Let's see what's on the other side of going farther. Now that I've experienced the pain, I didn't really get anything out of it. Like I kind of felt like, oh, this hurt, but it hurts probably so much because I'm fat. I'm like 240 pounds. I'm out of shape. Not very, you know, I guess I'm not very disciplined. I'm disciplined with work and all this shit, but not disciplined with pushing my body to its limits. So let's see where else we can go with this. So I keep pushing the envelope. Set a goal for 5 miles. Set a goal for 7 miles, and then fail it. And then it was like, oh fuck. Well, shit. What do I do with that? I failed the challenge. I failed the goal. So then, instead of giving up and being like, well, that's impossible, I worked harder, and I pushed, and I did it. I attempted the challenge again, and I completed it this time. And I was like, oh. So then I start understanding what a journey looks like, you know, like I can even rewind back to my musical journey and playing the guitar and learning how to play the guitar and overcoming all the challenges that come with that, and the monotony of playing the same goddamn pattern over and over and over again just to get the muscle memory of doing it. And the journey that from the point where I started to the point where I am now, it's like, if you look at that, and if you were to take a snapshot of the before and after, you'd be like, wow. But you got to look at the journey, the overcoming things, the discovering things. And that's kind of like what this physical journey has been like, is the overcoming the hurdles, the monotony of being on a trail for freaking hours on end with the pain of carrying this heavy ass weight, and then and then building on that, and then growing and getting stronger and being able to go for farther, and then getting to the point where I am now, where it's like I still am pushing the envelope. I'm still trying to see, like, where is my breaking point, and then how do I push that threshold? And I come close to it a lot. Like, shit, last weekend I was pissing and shitting blood for like 2 days. Like, it was really bad. Like, okay, some would say that I've reached my threshold, and it's like, well, maybe I just need to be smarter and prepare better, and then try again and do better next time, and I just have found so much benefit mentally by that one step it took years ago, rewiring my brain, not wanting to be the person that I was, not wanting to just looking at myself and not being content, and then having the courage and the everything to just get out of my comfort zone and do things that are hard. And I've found that on the back end of every single hard challenge I've done, I've grown as a human being, and I've grown as a man and a husband. I've grown as a father. I've grown as a business owner. Humility goes a long way, and rewiring your brain is something that I've done so many times now that now it's not hard. It doesn't seem like this unfamiliar thing. It's like I take a step back, I look at me, okay, here's what I'm doing. Can I be working harder? Can I be working more? Can I have better conversations and better communication with my customers? How can I be a better business owner? How can I be a better steward to my community? How can I be better steward to myself, to my body, to my health? How can I show my kids like how to overcome adversity and things like that? Like, I think it's made me a better parent because they've watched me go through hard. I remember the first time I tried to ruck with 80 pounds, and we were only going 4 miles, and I did with my daughter Brianna, and I don't remember if Lexi was there or not, but we were going, and I remember at the beginning of it, I'm carrying this 80 pounds worth of sandbag. It's an 80 pound sandbag, and it's on my shoulders only. I'm not carrying anything in my hand. And I remember going, and like the first like, I don't know, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile is virtually all downhill. And I remember getting like the first mile in, and I'm like, fuck this, dude. There's no way I'm finishing this 4 mile with this 80 pounds on my shoulders, man. There's no way I'm completing this. And I tell Bree, I'm like, I'm gonna have to drop this bag, man. There's no way I'm gonna be able to do it. I'm in so much pain. I'm almost in fucking tears because it hurts so bad. There's burning so much in my shoulders. And we're going, and I still keep going like a moron. I keep going and pushing, and I'm not giving up. At this point, we get 2 miles in, and now we're staring at the steepest, tallest, hilliest part of the whole trail, and I'm dead. I'm a dead man. Like, there's no way. I'm ready to just drop the sandbags and go. And then I was like, well, I'm just gonna go until I can't go no more. How about that? I'll just keep pushing until I can't go no more. Me and my daughter were engaged in this conversation, and at this point I've figured a way to move the weight around, kind of to alleviate some of that pain off my shoulders. I've rotated a little bit, and I'm like, I get some little bit of relief just moving it and putting the points of pressure on different parts. And we get engaged in this conversation, and before we know it, we've tackled the whole tallest part of the hill. In fact, we've gotten to the top of the hill, and not only am I feeling better, I'm actually moving incredibly faster, even faster than I was at the beginning of the challenge. And we're over 2 miles in, and I'm confused. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Not only am I moving faster, it doesn't hurt anymore. The last 2 miles were absolutely miserable and just completely, it was awful. It was awful. It was like, of course I was weighing probably 180, 190 pounds at this time. At least that, right? And so it was less than half my body weight, but I found that, like, where'd the pain go? Like, what the fuck? And eventually I started running with the 80 pounds on me, and we're running on the trail, and I'm confused, and my daughter's probably like, what the fuck? Because just a half mile ago, he was crying almost, Fuck this, I was so mad. I got so mad at myself for attempting the challenge, and I'm embarrassed because I'm out there with my daughter, and she's gonna watch me fail this thing, and she sees me go through all these stages of emotional emotional stages. You know, at first I'm like, I'm gonna do this, and then next I'm like, I can't do this, and next is like, I'm fucking dying, there's no way, and then next I'm running, and she's confused too. And then we make it through the whole thing, so much so where I was like, fuck, I bet I could do another lap. And that's what I learned about myself there was, I'm not even getting warmed up till I'm 2 miles in, 3 miles in. That's when I start getting warmed up. The hardest part of the whole thing is like the first 2-3 miles. Well, shit. So then I learned that, like, all right, cool. Well, now you don't even get to think about giving up till you're 2 or 3 miles in. So that's why I push these runs and these challenges and stuff. Because, like, okay, so I know that there's this threshold at 2 or 3 miles in. Well, what's the threshold at 30 miles in, right? And you learn that there's a whole nother thing at 20 miles in. You hit this wall, and it's like, I cannot fucking go. I cannot take another step. But you just keep going. And then before you know it, 50 miles in, you're like, holy shit, I'm still moving. When you learn that, you just rewired your brain. You just set this, there was a wall there before, there was something there before that you knew was a boundary that could not be crossed. Well, now, no longer that boundary doesn't exist anymore. And I think that by rewiring my brain that first time, I've come to this point in my life where nothing is impossible. Nothing's impossible. And all you got to do is you just got to want it bad enough. And you got to get mad enough at yourself to allow yourself the freedom to pursue proving yourself wrong. And yeah, man, some beauty in that. There's a lot of life lessons in that. And there's, I don't know. Never found myself in a problem hard work didn't get me out of. I've been known for saying that, and I mean it. I mean it 100% with all my heart. That is absolutely a true statement, and it's probably the smartest thing I've ever said. So there you go. That's 22 minutes. 22 minutes without a script. Yeah, I don't know if it's worth a shit or not, but yeah, there you go.